reply.
From the honourable member from Prince Albert.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank everybody here for giving this bill due consideration and going through it and providing some good insight in what we should be doing or not doing. I also want to thank the House for having the ability to raise this issue on behalf of Canadians, because it is a very serious issue. Canadians are saying they want to see action on auto theft. They want to make sure that things are being done to stop this. It's costing them a lot of money, harm, personal safety, creating a lot of stress. This is an issue that actually needs to be addressed by the House of Commons, and this bill provides that option. You know, Mr. Speaker, I've heard members from different parties give their opinions and views, and some had some really good ideas. I know my member from the bloc here talked about how he's willing to get it to committee. That's all I was asking for. That's all Canadians were asking for, was a chance to get it to committee and then look at it in a very serious manner. Bring in the appropriate witnesses, bring in the police chiefs, bring in the police unions, bring in the judges, bring in the appropriate people. You know, the members from this so-called summit that they had, they could bring in the experts from there if they have data to bring in that. The NDP talked about some of the programs in British Columbia and Manitoba. We'll bring in that data into committee and then look at that and see how you can craft it into something that we can make it work here in Canada. But doing nothing is not an option. Doing nothing means you haven't listened to one word your constituents have told you this past summer. Your constituents, I'll guarantee you, talked about crime. If you're going door to door, crime would have been one of the top two issues they would have talked to you about. You know, Mr. Speaker, this could go to committee. This could be massaged, changed. I'm open-minded on that. I'm a type of person that's not overly partisan. I just like to move the yardsticks to make sure that at the end of the day, Canadians have benefited. That's the total goal of this piece of legislation, is to get it there so we can talk about it and look for the best practices. You know, when I look at the response, the member from Winnipeg North, he talked about the programs they had in Manitoba and how good they were. I'll remind them that in Winnipeg alone, auto theft's up 62.5% in Winnipeg alone. That's not the rest of Manitoba, that's Winnipeg alone. That's not 2015 to 2022, it's up 62%. If you go right across the board, right across Canada, these numbers are astounding. This is a real issue that Canadians want to be talking about, want us to work with. This is an example where parties can actually work together and accomplish something together that would benefit all Canadians. But what have we seen, Mr. Speaker? A partisan attack by the Liberals. Basically, they're saying, you know what, there's not a problem. Even though they had a summit on it, even though they've put it into their budget, even though they've started to allocate money next year on this, $14 million a year, but they say it's not a problem. No, just close your eyes, it's not there, put your head in the sand. It just matches the reasons why this party's so out of touch. This party has lost touch with Canadians. It doesn't understand what Canadians are asking them to do. They don't understand the role they have as a government to represent Canadians and actually bring in laws to protect Canadians. Protect Canadians. Do I need to repeat that again? Protect Canadians. Here's a prime example. We could go to committee. We can bring forward different ideas from different provinces, from different groups, associations. I have no issue with any of that. But at the end of the day, we need to have a piece of legislation coming out of the House of Commons that actually attacks the issue and reduces the crime. So what is the best way to do that? But if you don't go to committee, if you don't get it there, then what have you said to your constituents? It's not a big enough issue. We don't care. That's how it's going to be perceived. That's what they're going to think. You know, they're going to come back and you're going to go back and door knock and you say, okay, what about crime? Well, we did have a PMB, but we voted against it. Why? Good question. Why? Why wouldn't you get it to committee? Why wouldn't you talk about it? Why wouldn't you keep an open mind like I'm willing to do and keep an open mind and actually get a piece of legislation forward that may lower crime in autos, may lower actual insurance rates, may lower the ability of people to feel safe in their homes or unsafe in their homes. Mr. Speaker, there's lots of options here. But one of the options that should not be considered is the option of not taking it to committee and talking about it. And if the government wants to go down that path, that would explain why they are where they are in the polls. They've lost touch with Canada and Canadians. They don't represent what they're asking them to do. They have their own opinions, and instead of listening to them, they're going back to preaching to them. That doesn't work, Mr. Speaker, and the next election will prove that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.